Have you ever imagined that baking soda, that simple ingredient you have at home, could transform your health after 60, improve circulation, increase energy, clear your mind, and even rekindle intimacy with your partner? I tried it, and the results changed my life. Today, I feel more energetic, more present, and with a vitality I haven't felt in decades. In this video, I'll show you how to use baking soda safely and why it can be the best natural ally for those who want to live longer and better after 60. Stay with me until the end. You'll be surprised. If you're new here, leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos. Few people know this, but something as simple as baking soda, that white powder usually forgotten at the back of the pantry, can be a true ally in the quest for better health, vitality, and even the rediscovery of pleasure and intimacy after 60. It's curious to think that amid so many expensive medications, invasive treatments, and miraculous promises from the pharmaceutical industry, the answer to improving circulation and sexual well-being may lie in something so accessible, natural, and inexpensive. And what's most surprising is that when used consciously and regularly, baking soda can promote real and noticeable changes in the body, especially in men and women facing the natural challenges of aging. Starting at age 60, the body naturally undergoes changes that affect blood circulation. Arteries can become stiffer, blood pressure can fluctuate more easily, and blood flow to important areas such as the brain, heart, and even the genitals tends to decrease. This reduction in blood flow has a direct impact on mood, physical performance, and, inevitably, intimate life. Many couples begin to experience a sense of distance, not only emotionally, but also physically. The flame of desire is still burning, but the body sometimes no longer responds with the same intensity. It is in this scenario that bicarbonate can make a significant difference. The secret lies in understanding that sodium bicarbonate has alkalizing properties, meaning it helps balance the body's pH. When our bodies are more acidic, something common due to processed foods, stress, and a sedentary lifestyle, our blood becomes less efficient at transporting oxygen. This impairs circulation and as a result affects everything: energy, memory, libido, and physical endurance. By regulating this pH, bicarbonate promotes a cleaner, more fluid internal environment that is conducive to good circulation. More oxygen reaches the tissues, the blood vessels relax, and blood pressure tends to stabilize naturally. This can be especially beneficial for those who want to regain vitality and sexual potency without immediately resorting to medication. But the benefits don't stop there. Several studies suggest that bicarbonate also acts as a mild anti-inflammatory agent. Over the years, the body tends to accumulate silent inflammation, which does not cause acute pain but affects overall health. This chronic inflammation is one of the main causes of poor circulation, joint pain, persistent fatigue, and decreased sexual performance. By reducing this inflammatory process, baking soda helps not only to clean the vessels, but also to revitalize the tissues, contributing to a feeling of lightness, mobility, and vigor that many believed they had lost forever. The most common method of use is simple, but requires attention. A small amount of bicarbonate, usually half a teaspoon, diluted in a glass of warm water, taken on an empty stomach or after meals, a few times a week. Of course, it is essential to respect your body's limits and, if possible, talk to a healthcare professional before starting any regular practice. Excessive use can cause gastric discomfort or electrolyte imbalance. However, when used in moderation, reports of improvement are impressive. Men report firmer and longer-lasting erections. Women feel more sensitivity and pleasure, and both experience more energy and connection during sex. Another interesting use is a baking soda bath. Adding 1 or 2 tablespoons to hot bath water can help relax muscles, stimulate peripheral circulation, and relieve accumulated tension. When done as a couple, this practice also becomes a moment of intimacy, mutual care, and emotional reconnection. After all, taking care of your body is also taking care of your relationship, and rediscovering the pleasure of touching, talking, and being together, free from the pressures of time, is one of the greatest rewards of this stage of life. Many who adopt this habit report something almost miraculous: a rebirth, waking up feeling energized, feeling your heart beat faster during a walk, looking at your partner with renewed desire, feeling useful, alive, powerful. It is no exaggeration to say that when blood flows freely and strongly again, the soul is also renewed. What once seemed lost, pleasure, passion, confidence, blooms again, even after decades of routine. And what was just an experiment with baking soda turns into a journey of self-discovery, well-being, and deep reconnection with the body. The fact is that after age 60, what we seek is no longer quantity, but quality. Quality of life, love, affection, and pleasure. And if there is a simple, natural, and effective way to regain this, why not try it? When used wisely, baking soda can be much more than a kitchen ingredient. It can be the beginning of a new phase, marked not by decline, but by the rediscovery of what it means to be alive, fully alive. Few issues are as delicate, yet as urgent, as the loss of sexual performance in men over the age of 60. It is a natural process, yes, but it is also something that deeply affects self-esteem, identity, and even the connection with a loved one. Many men are ashamed to talk about it, silence their frustrations, and without realizing it, plunge into a cycle of insecurity, fear, and emotional distance. It is in this context that a simple, almost obvious discovery begins to gain momentum: the use of sodium bicarbonate as a discreet but powerful ally in the recovery of male vitality. It may seem far-fetched at first glance, but when we understand the body's mechanisms and the role of circulation, pH, and cellular oxygenation, it all starts to make sense, including the reports of men who say they feel rejuvenated, like they're 20 again. The scientific basis is clear. Erection, energy, and libido are closely linked to cardiovascular health and tissue oxygenation. Without efficient blood flow, the penis simply does not respond. Rigidity, duration, and even sensitivity during intercourse are compromised. That is why so many pharmaceutical solutions, such as the famous blue pills, act on the blood vessels, forcing them to dilate so that blood can reach the genital region more easily. But this comes at a cost: side effects, dependence, contraindications. Sodium bicarbonate, on the other hand, acts in a broader, deeper, and more natural way. It does not force the body. It cleanses, balances, and prepares the ground for nature to act freely again. Baking soda helps alkalize the blood. This means that it reduces the body's internal acidity, creating a healthier and more functional environment for cells. An acidic body is an inflamed, tense, overloaded body, and where there is inflammation, there is stiffness in the blood vessels, poor circulation, and stagnation. The alkalization promoted by bicarbonate facilitates the relaxation of the arteries, improves blood flow, and promotes cellular oxygenation, especially in the extremities of the body, where circulation tends to be more compromised with age. This includes the genitals. Men who start using bicarbonate in moderation often report that within a few weeks, they notice significant differences: more energy in the morning, spontaneous erections that had disappeared, increased sensitivity, and greater confidence in their own bodies. But the action of bicarbonate goes beyond the physical. When a man feels that he is once again in control of his virility, something changes within him. He walks more upright, speaks more firmly, and looks people in the eye with confidence. Sexual energy is not just for the act itself. It is a vital force, an expression of who we are. Regaining it is, in many cases, like regaining one's identity. And when this happens naturally, without medication or chemical dependence, the emotional and psychological impact is even greater. The feeling of autonomy, of "I did it myself," is deeply transformative. And this new state of mind is also reflected in the relationship with one's partner, who begins to notice a new sparkle in the eyes, a new vibration, a new presence. The most common practice involves taking a simple solution: half a teaspoon of baking soda diluted in a glass of water, preferably warm, on an empty stomach or before bed. Some people prefer to take it after heavy meals to also aid digestion, which is directly related to sexual desire. After all, a slow, heavy, and poorly digested body is unlikely to feel ready for intimacy. The secret lies in regularity and respecting your own limits. It is not about overdoing it or expecting an instant miracle. It is about nourishing the body from within, day after day, until it returns to its natural rhythm. In addition to ingestion, baking soda can also be used in sitz baths, which are especially useful for men suffering from prostate problems, hemorrhoids, or pelvic tension. A warm bath with baking soda relaxes the muscles in the intimate area, improves local blood flow, and provides a state of well-being and connection with one's own body that many have not experienced in years. This self-care, this attention to detail, is also a form of eroticism, the eroticism of presence, of body awareness, of surrender. What is striking is that even though it is such an inexpensive and accessible product, baking soda is still underestimated by many, perhaps because it is too simple. In a world where the solution always seems to lie in something expensive, complex, or technological, a white powder found at the corner store sounds almost naive, but that is precisely where its strength lies. Baking soda respects the body's timing. It doesn't force anything. It prepares, facilitates, promotes. It gives power back to men, allowing them to regain their potency naturally, without aggression, without fear. Men who allow themselves to try this practice report real transformations. They regain their desire, feel desired again, and experience sex not as an effort, but as a renewed pleasure. And the most beautiful thing is to realize that this change does not happen in isolation. When men regain confidence in themselves, everything around them improves: their mood, sleep, appetite, relationship with their partner, motivation to live. And it all started with a simple gesture: adding a pinch of baking soda to a glass of water, with the hope that better days are still possible, and they are. It's funny how, over the years, we start to believe that certain things are simply a thing of the past. Intense passion, lingering touch, spontaneous desire, all of this, little by little, seems to be replaced by routine, commitments, and age creeping up on us and imposing its limits. But what no one tells us, or what we may have forgotten, is that we don't have to accept this cooling off as inevitable. Intimacy doesn't have to disappear over time. On the contrary, it can transform, renew itself, and even blossom in a deeper and more authentic way. And as unusual as it may seem, one of the things that contributed most to this rediscovery in my life with my wife was something as simple as surprising: the daily use of baking soda. It all started unpretentiously. After turning 60, I began to notice subtle changes: less energy in the morning, less desire for physical contact, and even a certain insecurity during intimacy. My wife, who has always been my partner in everything, felt the same way, although she didn't say so outright. There was affection and respect, but that fire, that natural impulse that had always been there, was missing. That's when, while researching natural ways to improve circulation and revitalize sexual health, I came across the use of baking soda. At first, I confess I was skeptical. After all, how could a simple white powder make a difference in the life of a mature couple? But I decided to give it a try. And to my surprise, what started as an experiment became a true ritual of connection: physical, emotional, and spiritual. We incorporated baking soda into our routine in a very simple way. Every morning, on an empty stomach, we drink a glass of warm water with half a teaspoon of baking soda together. It wasn't just about the physical effects. The act of preparing and drinking this little morning tonic together became a symbol of mutual care. We began to notice subtle improvements in the first few weeks: more energy, less bloating, deeper sleep. Gradually, the conversation returned to our bodies, our desires, the wants that were still there, just dormant. Over time, we went further. We started taking baking soda baths, a tablespoon in a bathtub filled with hot water, where we would hold hands, either in silence or talking about life. This time together, without cell phones, without distractions, without rushing, rekindled something inside us. The hot water relaxed our muscles, the baking soda seemed to take away the tension, and our bodies recognized each other again. Sometimes we exchanged massages with oil and a pinch of baking soda, and rediscovered the pleasure of touch, without purpose, without expectation, just presence and surrender. It felt like we were going back in time, not in appearance, but in essence. The big transformation, however, came from within. The baking soda helped cleanse our bodies, improve our digestion, and relieve silent inflammations that were stealing our energy without us even noticing. And when the body is clean, alkaline, with good circulation, libido naturally reawakens, not in an explosive or artificial way like in medicine commercials, but with an intense, constant, reliable softness. We started making love more often, with more pleasure, with more intimacy. It wasn't just sex, it was a reunion. It was a communion of bodies, stories, and complicity. What moves me the most is realizing that it's not just a physical benefit. Baking soda in our routine has become a symbol of our commitment to our life together, of attention to detail, of not accepting the narrative that aging is synonymous with separation. Because the truth is that when there is desire, when there is care, love can mature like a fine wine, fuller-bodied, more sensitive, more powerful. Today at 63, I feel more alive than I did at 40, and my wife says with a sparkle in her eyes that she has rediscovered the man she fell in love with, and I have rediscovered the woman who continues to inspire, welcome me, and desire me. Of course, it's not just the baking soda, it's the change in attitude, it's the commitment to health, to partnership, to touch, to shared time. But it was the baking soda that gave us the starting point. It showed us that the solution doesn't have to be expensive or complicated. Sometimes you just need to stop, listen to your body, and give it what it really needs: care, balance, purity. And so we continue. Every morning, our glass of baking soda. From time to time, our immersion bath. And with increasing frequency, our moments of love, pleasure, and surrender. To outsiders, we look like an ordinary couple. But inside, we experience something extraordinary. The certainty that it is never too late to rekindle the flame, to touch with intention, to love with presence. And it all started with a small gesture: a spoonful of baking soda, a glass of water, and two hearts willing to find each other again. Reaching 60 in good health is already an achievement for many, but reaching 60 and feeling as vibrant as a 20-year-old, with energy pulsing through your body, your mind alert, and your libido high, that I would say borders on the extraordinary. And the most interesting thing is that this transformation did not come from any expensive medication or miraculous cosmetic procedure. No, the change happened inside me, silently, constantly, and naturally, from the moment I decided to listen to my body and give it what it had perhaps been asking for years: balance, lightness, circulation, and purity. And the starting point for this surprising journey was a gesture as simple as it was powerful: the daily use of baking soda. For most of my life, I accepted as an indisputable truth that aging was synonymous with decline: sleeping less, feeling more tired, having less desire, losing firmness in erections, forgetting small details of everyday life. All of this seemed inevitable to me. It was as if my body was slowly shutting down its functions, and all that was left for me to do was to observe this process with resignation. But life sometimes surprises us with unexpected paths, and it was in one of these searches for natural solutions, almost out of curiosity, that I read about the alkalizing effects of sodium bicarbonate and its ability to improve oxygenation in the body. Something so simple, so inexpensive, and yet so overlooked. I started using it cautiously. Half a teaspoon in a glass of warm water in the morning on an empty stomach. No expectations, no rush, just the intention to take better care of myself. And as the days went by, something began to change. First was the feeling of lightness after meals. Then my sleep became deeper, and then my morning energy returned with a vengeance. Waking up without pain, with a clear mind, wanting to walk, talk, live. It was like rediscovering my youth. But the most impressive thing was yet to come. The return of desire. Not just sexual desire, but the desire to be alive, to touch, to be touched, to love intensely. The explanation lies in circulation. With a more alkaline body, blood flows better. Blood vessels dilate more easily. Oxygen reaches tissues more efficiently. The heart works with less effort. The mind calms down. The nervous system balances itself. It's as if the gears of life are turning at full speed again. And with that, libido, so affected by fatigue, silent inflammation, and the accumulation of toxins, simply awakens. I began to notice more spontaneous, longer-lasting erections, and most importantly, a deeper emotional connection with my wife. Touch became pleasurable again. Kisses became more intense, and sex ceased to be just an occasional effort and became a celebration once more. Today I understand that youth is not just about the number of birthdays we accumulate, but about how our blood circulates, how our thoughts flow, how our eyes shine in the mirror. And it all starts inside, in the invisible field of the body's biochemistry. By reducing internal acidity, bicarbonate acts as a subtle cleaner. It cleans, regulates, and reduces inflammation. It is not an artificial stimulant. It does not speed up the body with false promises. It prepares the ground for the body to function as it should, at its own pace, with its own wisdom. And it is this naturalness that makes the results so lasting and so true. There are days when I walk with my wife hand in hand through the neighborhood and feel as if time has stopped. Not because we have physically returned to our youth, but because we have regained the energy, affection, desire, and above all, the joy of being alive and whole for each other. And that to me is more valuable than any miraculous promise. Feeling desired, strong, confident again, these are experiences that no medicine can fully offer because they come from within, from a well-cared-for body, a calm heart, and a peaceful mind. Of course, baking soda isn't the only key. It is part of a set of changes. Eating well, drinking more water, taking light walks, sleeping well, staying emotionally connected with those you love. But it was undoubtedly the catalyst, the first step, the spark that ignited the transformation, a detail that opened the doors to a new phase of life, more conscious, more active, and much more enjoyable. Today, at 62, I feel more powerful than I did at 40. Not in the sense of brute strength, but in the sense of presence, stability, confidence. My intimacy with my wife is no longer driven by haste or anxiety, but by the deep encounter of two bodies and two souls that respect and rediscover each other. And it all started when I decided to say no to conformity and yes to life. A glass of water, half a spoonful of baking soda, and the desire to live life to the fullest again. In a world saturated with complex solutions, synthetic drugs, and instant promises, there is something comforting and deeply powerful about simplicity, and it is precisely this simplicity that makes baking soda so special. Over the years, this white powder, inexpensive and often forgotten at the back of the pantry, has shown surprising potential in promoting health, especially for those seeking to improve circulation, energy, and even marital intimacy after age 60. But to reap the true benefits of this natural ally, it is essential to understand that baking soda is not a magic formula. It is a tool, and like any powerful tool, it needs to be used consciously, carefully, and regularly. That's why, in this article, I want to share with you in great detail the step-by-step process I use to safely and efficiently incorporate baking soda into my daily routine. The first point is to understand that the effectiveness of baking soda is directly linked to its ability to alkalize the body. When the human body is in a state of chronic acidity, the result of poor diet, stress, a sedentary lifestyle, or excessive consumption of medications, it tends to suffer from poor circulation, low oxygenation, silent inflammation, and progressive loss of energy. These imbalances directly impact vitality, mood, physical disposition, and of course libido. Baking soda works by neutralizing this acidity, promoting a more balanced internal environment, where blood circulates more easily and oxygen gets where it needs to go. But for this to happen, consumption must be done with attention to dosage and frequency. My routine always starts in the morning, on an empty stomach. As soon as I wake up, before eating anything, I prepare a glass glass of warm water with about half a teaspoon of sodium bicarbonate, no more than that. This amount is enough to stimulate the alkalization process without overloading the stomach. Warm water is important because it facilitates absorption and does not shock the digestive system right after waking up. I drink this glass slowly, feeling the liquid run through my body and imagining that I am giving my body what it needs to function well that day. It is a moment of presence and intention. No rush, no distractions, just me and my body connected. It is important to note that I do not do this every day. I alternate. I do it 3 to 4 times a week, usually on days when I feel more tense, inflamed, or when I have eaten more acidic foods the day before. Constant and indiscriminate use can indeed cause imbalances, as baking soda affects the pH of the stomach and, in excess, can interfere with digestion. Therefore, balance is the key word. Using it wisely is what guarantees real benefits. Another essential part of my ritual involves baking soda baths. On colder days or after light physical activity, I prepare a bathtub or a large bucket with hot water, not boiling, just warm enough to relax the body. I add 2 tablespoons of baking soda and soak for about 20 minutes. This bath has an almost therapeutic effect. It helps relieve muscle pain, stimulates peripheral circulation, calms the mind, and promotes the elimination of toxins through the skin. Sometimes I use this time as a sitz bath, which is especially helpful for the pelvic area, where circulation tends to be more compromised with age. For men, this can bring relief from prostate discomfort, and for both sexes, a noticeable improvement in sensitivity and response during intimacy. The combination of oral and topical use creates a powerful balance. One acts from the inside out, purifying the blood and relaxing the vessels. The other acts from the outside in, relaxing muscles and nerves, creating a feeling of lightness that spreads throughout the body. And when done as a couple, as I do with my wife, this care also becomes a moment of affection. Drinking a glass of water together, preparing the bath together, exchanging massages with a pinch of baking soda diluted in vegetable oil. All of this strengthens the bonds, presence, and intimacy that so many couples feel they have lost over the years. But it is also important to take care of the quality of the baking soda used. We always opt for pure sodium bicarbonate, without additives, usually purchased from compounding pharmacies or natural product stores. We avoid common industrial bicarbonate used in cleaning or baking, as it may contain impurities or be exposed to contaminants. This care with the source ensures that what we are putting into our bodies is truly beneficial. Another valuable tip: listen to your body. If at any time you feel bloated, have excess gas, or feel like your stomach is too empty, it is a good idea to reduce the frequency or seek professional advice. Baking soda is powerful, but it should be an ally and never a substitute for a healthy diet, a good night's sleep, or moments of pleasure and connection. It acts as a facilitator, a pathfinder, but it is you who travels those paths. Today, looking back, I realize that this small change in my routine, the conscious use of baking soda, has not only improved my health, energy, and circulation, it has taught me about mindfulness, about care, about the importance of the little rituals we do for ourselves and for those we love. And above all, it showed me that even after 60, it is possible to live with fulfillment, pleasure, and power. All you have to do is start. A glass of water, a pinch of confidence, and the decision to not settle for less than you deserve to feel. As we begin to age, our attention turns almost instinctively to what we are losing. Agility, physical strength, firm skin, sexual frequency, these aspects become the center of our concerns, and rightly so, as they directly impact our quality of life. But sometimes we become so caught up in what we feel we have lost that we forget to look at what we can still achieve. Discovering new paths to health, well-being, and vitality is possible at any age, and often these paths begin in unlikely places, such as in a simple glass of water with baking soda. What many consider just a kitchen ingredient or a household trick can actually hide a veritable arsenal of hidden benefits for the body, mind, and even the soul. When I started using baking soda, I confess that I did so with a very clear intention: to improve my circulation, and with that regain the sexual potency that I felt had weakened over the years. And indeed, that result came gradually, naturally, and surprisingly effectively. But what I didn't expect was the cascade of other positive effects that emerged as a result of this simple practice. It wasn't just my performance in the bedroom that improved. It was my digestive health, my mental clarity, my everyday energy, my willingness to walk, laugh, and talk. It was as if the baking soda was silently restoring my body's ability to function harmoniously, as if I had pressed an internal reset button. And most amazingly, there were no side effects, no dependency, no fantastical promises. One of the first benefits I began to notice was a marked improvement in digestion. After the age of 60, many men and women begin to experience gastrointestinal discomfort, heartburn, burning, bloating, reflux. The feeling of always being heavy or bloated, even after light meals, becomes common. And this, of course, affects not only your energy level, but also your mood. Baking soda, being slightly alkaline, acts as a natural neutralizer of stomach acidity, especially when taken in small doses after a heavy meal. The feeling of relief is almost immediate. But in addition, by regulating stomach pH, it allows the digestive process to become more efficient, resulting in less fermentation, less gas, and more energy available for the rest of the body. A healthy gut is often the secret behind a lighter mind and a calmer heart. Another thing that surprised me was the improvement in the quality of my sleep. For a long time, my nights were interrupted by frequent trips to the bathroom, physical restlessness, or simply by a racing mind that couldn't shut down. What I didn't know was that excess acidity in the body can also be linked to these nighttime disturbances. When the body is out of balance, it goes into a state of constant alert, preventing the nervous system from slowing down as it should. With the use of bicarbonate on specific days before bedtime, I noticed that relaxation came more easily. Sleeping became a more natural process, and waking up in turn became more invigorating. This impacted everything: my mood, my patience, my relationship with my wife, and even my creativity for the small pleasures in life. But perhaps one of the most unexpected and most valuable effects was on my mental clarity. As we age, it is common to experience a slight brain fog, that difficulty in finding words, short-term memory loss, slow thinking. I was not immune to this, and as much as I tried to accept it, part of me felt that it wasn't just aging, it was excess toxins, poor brain circulation, my body crying out for help. When circulation improved with the use of bicarbonate, when oxygenation increased, my mind cleared. I started to remember names more easily, finish sentences without stumbling, and feel more confident in my decisions. It was like rediscovering the most lucid version of myself, which I thought was hidden behind the years. And I can't fail to mention the effect on my joints. Many elderly people live with joint inflammation, with silent pains that limit movement and reduce quality of life. Bicarbonate, by helping to reduce systemic acidity, indirectly contributes to reducing this inflammation. It is not an anti-inflammatory in the pharmacological sense, but rather a regulator of the internal environment, and that makes all the difference. With less pain, I started walking more, climbing stairs, and dancing with my wife in the living room from time to time. Small gestures that reconnected me with the joy of being alive, of being active, of being whole. What I mean by all this is that, although bicarbonate is mainly known for its effect on digestion and circulation, it goes far beyond that. It is a symbol of reconnection with simplicity, a reminder that the human body is a complex machine, yes, but also a wise one, and that it often needs very little to function well again. By including baking soda in my routine with balance and awareness, I have rediscovered a lighter, cleaner, more centered life. And more than that, I have come to understand that aging does not have to be a decline. With the right care, it can be an ascent toward clarity, inner peace, true intimacy, and the wisdom of someone who has learned to care for themselves with love.